When we thought about the prophet's lifestyle, we pictured scenes from Bonanza or Gunsmoke. We gave our children images of covered wagons and coloring books. We let them color pictures of a young prophet visiting an old general store to buy groceries, or a boy with a rifle alone in a big field that was miles and miles from civilization. Our mental images never included scenes from a turn-of-the-century metropolis that Jeffersonville had become by the time the Branham family arrived. We never pictured scenes of modern machinery in the streets. In fact, we had coloring books of the prophet on Jeffersonville city streets depicted as dirt roads with horses and buggies. When the Branham family arrived in Jeffersonville, they came to a busy, thriving port city to live with Jeffersonville's elite. They came to be near civilization, not to avoid it. I started to notice that there were different versions of the prophet's life story. In some versions, he hunted and trapped to provide food for his widowed mother and siblings. In other versions, they lived in the wealthy part of Utica just outside of Jeffersonville, beside the millionaire Wathen. When the prophet told the Indiana versions of his childhood stories, his father, Charles Branham, was a driver for Mr. Wathen. When the prophet described his father, it was seldom with fond memory. The Branham family was, according to the accounts, non-religious, alcoholic, partying, and of no account. They were stories of his father producing illegal moonshine and tales of drunken women leaving their husbands for other married men in the parties hosted by his father. The prophet told of how hard he had to work to help in making that liquor, carrying old cedar buckets full of water up to the still for hours of his day. He described his father as a slave driver, a taskmaster that made the prophet work all day so that he could drink the night away. I remember the bitter thoughts that I had about the prophet's father. How could he let drinking get in the way of his family? From the prophet's stories, it almost sounded like Charles was a fugitive on the run. When he talked about his father making whiskey and throwing parties, I never really thought about it being in the context of living on the rich side of town with Otto H. Wathen. I never thought about it happening during the time of Prohibition in the same area as the big distilleries. I realized that it was time to learn more about Mr. Wathen and the impact that the liquor industry had on Jeffersonville.